So I think a lot of times people have a preconceived notion that someone's just weak or they can't quit on their own, or if they just had more, moral fortitude or had more self-control, they would be able to stop. And I just want to talk about that for a little while because the chemicals or the substances really do affect the chemicals of the brain, and therefore they change the way the brain is working. So a lot of times the drugs and the alcohol, either they mimic chemicals that are already in the brain, or they have an effect on how much of the chemical in the brain gets released or how long it stays present. So that can have long-term effects. Those chemicals hit the pleasure center of the brain. So that's why people continue to use, because it's pleasurable for them. And over time, that's the only way that their brain recognizes pleasure. So when does it become problematic? Well, for alcohol and drug use, it's problematic when it starts to really affect functioning. So if it's interfering with work or school, or if with family obligations, if people are missing their family obligations either because of using a substance or recovering from the substance, then that's problematic use. And I think that's a really difficult thing to navigate for families, because they don't want to enable people to continue using, like by giving them financial support or things like that. That could just make the situation worse. But you don't want to be also they don't want to be too confrontational with the other person, because that could push people away. So I think it's difficult to kind of navigate that middle ground. And so that's when other support would come into play for those families. So they can go through those same resources through SAMHSA or NIDA websites. They can go to NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mentally Ill, which is really focused on providing support for families. And they can also seek their own counseling and find out how to best be an active support person, but not an enabler for the person that they love.